There we go. Can you
Okay.
still hear me?
Yes. Can you hear me?
Yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am.
Okay.
So we are live on Facebook as well. And we welcome anybody that's coming on. We want you to come on in, share, like with your followers as well. We are here today, Tuesday, November the 14th, 2023, with Miss Diane E. Johnson. I'm so
Yes.
happy to have you.
I'm so happy to be here, Janice. I appreciate this interview. I really do.
Oh, hey, we're going to share this across all platforms, trust me. And so I have in the background, write it, then it's history. And it's I don't know if you can see that. Can you see my
Yes,
background?
I can. I love it. I love
Okay, okay,
it.
wonderful, wonderful. And so they can see it too as well. Miss Johnson, I wanted to invite you when I came upon your journal. Uh, I was very intrigued. I went into your Facebook page and I saw your explanation as to why you actually wrote the journal. So I want to give the audience, your audience, and those that we're so grateful that follow me as well,
Okay.
uh, give them the little backdrop as to what really happened that surrounded the reason for you writing your journal. And I want the audience to understand that Miss Johnson is a prolific writer. She is very astute in this particular genre, and it would behoove us to pay close attention to what she's about to share with us today. And I want to get right into it. So you're in charge. I'm going to let you start
Okay.
wherever you want to start.
Okay. In 1996, uh, my son was diagnosed with HIV. And I'm backtrack. In 1986, in 1996, it's developed into full-blown AIDS. And you have to imagine in that time period, there was no Google. The internet was there, but it wasn't very much information. So going to his doctor's appointment with my husband, the information that we were given was way over our head about red corpuscles and white and red cells. We just didn't understand it all. So I took a simple ledger pad with me to the doctor's office and I started writing down everything the doctor was saying. And I completed like two ledger pads. And if you know what a ledger pad looks like, it's lined paper. So that's a lot of information, but I started writing it down. And then the worst thing that could happen, my son's job changed insurance companies. So when he went to a different hospital and a different doctor, they said, tell us what's been going on. Well, there was no my chart back then. You had to remember everything and what medications is he on, what's his reaction to the medication? Well, I took out my lined ledger pad and I started reading to the doctor, and they were just amazed that I had been writing this for a couple of years in order to get a grasp on what my son was going through because we didn't really understand it. The only thing that we knew is there was no cure. The doctors told us that repeatedly. We can manage the illness, but there's no cure. So uh, we just continued with this until it got worse. And then my son made his transition on October 1st of 1999. And I joined a group here in Chicago called the Black Inventors. And they said, well, Diane, do you have something that you want to bring out to the public? And I said, no, I just have some journal sheets. But I got home with my husband. I started talking. I said, you know what? I'm going to turn this into a journal, into a health journal. And fast forward that to 2009, I was able to get an investor who designed this beautiful cover of my book. She designed the
Amen.
cover of my book, and I thought it was absolutely beautiful. So we ordered the books and we started selling the books. And then I was able to get into Walgreens. I got into one Walgreens and I asked the manager, could you give me a referral? At that time, Janice, I didn't really know that that was marketing. I didn't understand that. I just continued until I was in 15 Walgreens stores.
Wow.
The book sold very, very well. And then we came into this computer age, and everybody says, well, can you put that on a CD? People are not writing anymore. You see how times have changed. Now people are writing, even though they do want something digital. But the journal took hold of my whole life because I did a book launch in 2009. And then I did a book launch in October of this year. So in a 19-year span, I came back with the same book, but I updated it with so much more information because the health industry had changed. There was COVID, there was the flu, there was so many things that dictated writing in your journal to record all your medical information. But my journal included medical, naturally, for my son's illness, and then dental because his teeth were starting to, he had problems with his teeth. And then I had included family history, prescriptions. He was taking 15 medications a day. He was so tired of taking all that medication. You can just imagine. And then I put the notes section in there last because I needed some place to write the reaction to all of the medication, because the doctor would say, how did he respond to that medication? And I would go to my book and say, well, he was very lethargic. He didn't want to eat. But with this medication here, he seemed to have a little bit of appetite. So it was a lot. And I was still working at the time. But God gave me the strength to get through it all. And here I am again with another journal and my final one. But for those who are listening, your health is so important. We pay close attention to our cars, our clothes. We got tickets to go to this concert, that concert, go to the best restaurants. But what do we do for our health? Once we leave this world, you can't spend it because you're not here to spend it. Absolutely. So I tell my audience, please journal your health because this is the only information that you can give to your doctor and to your family. So in the event that you get sick, they would be able to follow what's going on in your life.
Yes. And I mean, that is just, I can't imagine what you all actually went through during that time. And it's a great segue when you said, I picked up on this, I picked up on a lot of things, and I'm sure our audience has as well, but to really pay attention to your health. And as you know, I do dabble in health and wellness as well. And I think that people also, if you would agree, would have to know that you need to do preventive medicine as and more natural things that we can do to help our health. And although we know that your son, that was something that happened to him, and it happened to a lot of people. And I'm sure back, especially back then, and I'm sure a lot of people was in your shoes, but did not know how to deal with it the way that you did. I mean, that's why this journal is so needed. It's so needed because even if you're on a journey of health, and this is about HIV, I know, but it also brings out the point that you need to pay attention in every area of your health, your lifestyle. And some of us take medicines, some of us try to holistically live, fruits, vegetables, exercise, walk, that type of, this is all encompassed to what your message is. Am I right?
Yes, it is. And I want to make a notation that on the doctor's journal page, when you go in to see the doctor, the nurse comes in, she takes your blood pressure, your heart rate, your weight, and your temperature. We don't even think about those 4 vital signs. We just let her walk out the room. But what happens with your next visit if those numbers have gone up? That means you need to change something in your diet. But most people, we don't pay attention to it. She writes it down and she says, okay, the doctor will be here in a minute. I recently went into my husband's primary care And I had my journal in my hand, and she wrote his vitals, and she walked out. I said, excuse me, could you give me those numbers, please? And I wrote them in my book. And I turned back to the last visit. I said, you're doing good. They're the
Yeah.
same numbers as they were
Oh,
before. So,
wonderful.
yeah, so watching those numbers and being able to write down 3 questions to ask your doctor before you get in that room. How many of us say, I forgot to ask that question to my doctor? And
That's
now you try to call them on the phone, or you go on my chart and you can't get in touch with them. But that's what this journal does. It gives you vital sign space, it gives you 3 question space, and then the conversation between
wow.
you and that doctor, that when you go back out to the waiting room, you quickly write it down, because when you get home, you're needed by everybody.
Right.
So at that
Right.
point, you write it down. And then one lady I sold the book to, she said, it's empty. I said, it's empty until you write in it. Then it
Ah,
becomes alive,
right.
because now these are your words, and everything that you're going through, you wrote into this book. So now when you go back and you say, wow, did I say that? I didn't know I meant that. And that's good that I know that, because now I can tell this to my husband or to my family or whomever that you have, your partner, you can share that information with them. So uh,
That's
that page is
phenomenal.
important.
That is good information that can be utilized. And you know, the thing about solving problems, when you have something that can solve a problem,
Yes,
that is something that is a blessing to everybody.
yes. And
Um,
it's a need.
it is, it really is. And I wanted to ask you as well in that journey, because as you know, I work healthcare for almost 30 some years.
Wow, that's
So I can
amazing.
relate to you what you've gone through as far as, you know, a lot of times I will say this, that some doctors, and they should not be this way, but when you start asking questions, I want to touch on that a little bit, because I want you to help the audience understand that
Okay.
not traditional medicine sometimes, um, you know, they just, like you say, they come in, they do your blood pressure, take your
Yeah.
temperature and all of that, and they don't expect patients to be knowledgeable.
No, they don't. They
Talk
don't.
about that a little bit.
Okay. When the doctors would come in, and my son and my husband and I was there, they would start asking me, Ms. Johnson, what do you think is the most important aspect that you want to ask about HIV? About how long is it going to take for us to cure him? Or what type of medicine is it going to take for him to get better? And will he get better? So I took out my notepad and I just started reading off my notepad the questions and the responses that the other doctors gave. And they were taken aback, because
Mm,
most patients are quiet-lipped. They just don't say anything. We allow the doctor to tell us what medications we're going to take. Even if we have adverse reaction to the medication, we just take it because the doctor said take it. But you have to question the doctor. You have to ask him, I'm taking this medication and I want to understand why I'm not getting better. Well, that was one of the things I asked the doctor. I said, he doesn't really seem to be getting better, his appetite. So they changed all 15 medications based
wow.
on what I said,
Wow.
but it didn't really help, because AIDS had gotten hold of him so much. But having that information to go back and forth with the doctors and say, no, that's not what you told me the last time. What you said is, and I would
Ah.
write it down. He said, well, let me see that, Ms. Johnson. And I would turn my sheet back to him. He said, yeah, well, I guess I did say that. I said, yes, you did say that. So
Mm,
it's your health.
right.
It's up to you to ask the doctors questions. And Janice is right. They don't expect you to do that. They expect to take those 15 minutes waiting for the next patient. They don't expect someone to come in and, I won't say go toe to toe, but be concerned and ask questions about their well-being. They don't expect that. But here I am with leisure pad, turning page after page,
Yes.
talking about some of the information that we got from another doctor at a different hospital. So I'm telling the doctor, I'm saying, what you're saying to me is totally different from what another doctor told me about his medicine and how much he should get and how many of these he should have.
Mm,
But when you've got that information, you seem to be able to feel comfortable. I feel confident because I was more knowledgeable
right.
walking in the door than I would have been if I hadn't written anything down. They would have just said whatever they want to say, and I would have said, oh, okay. But I questioned a lot of that, what they were saying, and they had to catch themselves and say, yeah, well, Ms. Johnson, maybe we did tell you that, but what we meant to say was. So
Right.
keeping that
Right.
information written down really, really made me feel a whole lot better. And my husband sat there and said, wow, I didn't know you were going to do that, but
Right.
I had to. I had to.
Well, I also want to bring this out as well. I am just very, very enamored with how you have done this. And I know you and I talked about you going on a book tour. Uh,
Yes.
and also, I want to touch a little bit about that. I think the audience has a really good idea of what you've done with the journal. And I can't imagine, your husband as well went through this just like you did, and how you are still, and the wonderful thing too, hopefully that he has learned, and thank God that you all are in good health. That's wonderful. But I'm sure that he would know how to do that as well because you have
Yeah.
set an example for your whole
Right.
household.
Right.
But for those folks who are listening and will come back and watch the replay, I just think that there's so many opportunities for just all types of organizations that could invite you in to do a forum, do a session with church organizations, better health organizations,
Okay.
community workshops, festivals, could book you. Tell the audience how they can get a hold of you, and whether or not you would be interested in doing those types of things.
Oh, yes, I definitely would be. And when I get through giving that information, I'm going to touch on three other parts of the journal that I just
Okay.
want to quickly give that. But the website is www.DianeSjouraNals, Diane'sJournals.com. And the email is Diane@Diane'sJournal.com. That's my Gmail address. So if you want to get in touch with me, I would be welcome to give this information. We have to give information when we feel it's important and that we're going to help somebody else, because I could have never thought 24 years later I will be sitting here talking about this. But because it was so close to my heart, I tell people losing my son was like heart surgery without an
Yeah.
anesthesia. So
Uh,
you can imagine how much it hurt. But through the years, some of that makes me feel better knowing that his journal is living on in his name. And so it makes me feel good every time I open the journal and I see his picture on the second page. It makes me feel good. I say, honey, we're still battling. And this is something that I found out, Janice, 2 years ago. My son never wanted to tell me, but National AIDS Day is on my birthday, December 1st.
really?
I did not know that till 2 years ago. He
Oh,
says, Mom,
wow.
don't worry about it. He didn't want to tell me that it was on my birthday, but
Uh,
that's just one of the things you just find out later on in life. But I want to talk about I talked about the medical section and then the dental section. And then we have the family history. So important to know your family history. We
mm,
have, everybody has DNA that you can't change. And I say DNA does not mean do not ask. You
right.
must ask.
That's right.
You must ask about your DNA, because there are stories that I hear about a young lady who caught breast cancer and didn't think it was from either one of her parents. It was in our local newspaper, but she found out that it was on her father's side, like three grandmothers back. So it passed four generations.
Wow.
So having your DNA, have a DNA party, take your journal, write down your family history, and know where you came from and where your
Mm,
children and grandchildren will go to as well.
wow.
And then we come into the prescription section. That's self-explanatory. Knowing the medication that you're taking, knowing the doses in the back of the book on the prescription page. I'm really, really happy because it gives you a reference sheet that you can put the page number and the date. So if somebody says, when did you start taking such and such? You go back to your prescription page and you say,
Right,
oh,
right.
I started taking it on 10/1. You go to that page and explains everything about how the doctor gave you this medication because he thought he was going to uh, make your pain better or get your all of the information that you needed about this particular medicine, and maybe even some of the adverse reactions that you had, that you've written them down. And then the last section is note section.
Mm,
So important to write down how you're feeling. You know how we get a toothache or we get an ache in our side, we say, I'm not going to urgent care, I'm not going to the hospital. And then
right,
this happens 3 times. And
right.
what's the first thing the doctor says? How long has it been? When you don't know the date, they give you the highest dose possible of medication,
Mm,
which could
that's a
make you
good
sick.
point.
And my doctor said, Diane, we asked you that because if it started last week, your dose is here. If you don't tell me, I'm going to give you a higher dose. So now
Wow.
we're trying to combat the illness. So write it in your notes section, every little ache and pain that you have, and maybe you won't have any more. But when you can go back to that note section and give them a clear date, then the doctor can treat it effectively.
That is, I mean, that is worth, I mean, you can't even put a price tag on what you just told us. Seriously,
Thank you. Thank
seriously.
you.
Uh,
Thank you.
I want to let the audience know I'm going to be posting the same backdrop I have on this live so that it'll have all the information that Miss Diane just gave you about her .com website, and also on this page too. It has, I think, your email addresses. I'm kind of blocking it a little bit because I'm sitting right in the middle of the Zoom
Okay.
camera, but I'll be posting that on LinkedIn, Instagram, Facebook, and TikTok. And if
Wow. Thank
I
you
am
so
able
much.
to upload this live onto TikTok, I will put it on there too because I'm doing more things on TikTok. Miss Diane, if there's anything else that you want to bring out before we try to close, I just want to tell you that I'm absolutely grateful that you have allowed me to interview you. And I hope that we can do more things together, even with HIV, because I think that, things have kind of gotten forgotten. But
Yes.
there are many people out here that are still suffering with that.
Yes.
The technology and the medicine has become very um, improved, shall I say.
Yes,
But
it has.
however, you do have people who still have it. And like you said, on December 1st, that's what national or international, is it international or national HIV Day?
I think it's National AIDS Day because I heard Elton John say something about that, and he's in England. So he has a group of
It must
people.
be international then,
Yeah,
because
it
AIDS
must be.
was an international issue.
Yes.
you
Yes, it
know.
was.
And I
Yes, it
just
was.
wondered there in Chicago or where else. I'll have to Google that and find out if they do like a march, to HIV survivors. I wonder if they do that, or wouldn't that be something to have an HIV day of festivities, and you could come and talk about your experience
Yes.
there in Chicago, or wherever someone might want to invite you that
Yes.
that's having an HIV event,
Yes.
and then we'll talk about how we can maybe organize something as
Okay.
well. You know what I mean? Because
Yes.
I'm a big believer. If they don't invite you to the table, you do the table yourself.
Very true. Very true, Janice. I like that saying. I like that. That's
Yeah,
very, I
yeah,
like that.
yeah.
I like that.
Yeah, so we're going to wrap this up. And if you don't have any closing remarks about the journal, I want
Yes.
everybody to go out and order it. You need it for
Yes.
yourselves, you need it for your family, invite Miss Diane, and you'll be hearing more about some things that we're going to be collaborating on this topic. So it's been wonderful having you today.
Yes, I so appreciate this, Janice, to get this information out to people. And you're right, it's not just about HIV, it's about all illnesses. And I mean, we have children that have illnesses, babies, seniors, everybody is seen by a doctor in their lifetime, and everybody receives some type of medication. So to journal that and find out how this medication is working in your body and what effects it has is so important to have it written down, because with our busy lives, we're not going to remember this information once we get back home. If our family members say, how did your doctor's appointment go? I don't know. I don't remember.
Right. And
So now
once
you open the book.
exactly. And this is another thing we can do another whole live about vitamins, because vitamins
Yes.
vitamins, you still have to know what you can take as a vitamin. You understand? Because you've got herbal and herbs, you need to understand how that's going to react in your body. You may be taking a certain medication that you can't take a herb
Right.
with, or a vitamin supplement. So, it's very important to be as
Yeah.
knowledgeable as possible.
Yes.
Well, listen, Miss Diane, thank you so much. We're
Thank
going to
you.
wrap this up,
Okay.
and I certainly thank you, and you have an excellent rest of your day.
You do the same.
And we'll be in contact with one another. If we don't talk before Thanksgiving, wishing you and your family a happy Thanksgiving.
Same to you. Same to you. And thank you, everybody. And I hope you go to the website and purchase one of the journals.
Absolutely. Have
Okay.
a great
Thank
day,
you.
everybody.
Okay. You too. Bye bye.
Bye bye now.
Okay.